Today I'm turning again to Luke chapter 7, which clearly has some very significant Old Testament background. We've had the faith of a centurion, we looked at that, and now the raising of a widow's son. And both show Jesus, if you like, reaching beyond the boundaries of expected behavior. There's the boundary with the Roman centurion, and now there's the boundary in a different place. Let me read to you, if I can, from Luke 7, verses 11 through to 17. Soon afterward, Jesus went to a town called Nain, and his disciples and a large crowd went along with him. As he approached the town gate, a dead person was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. And a large crowd from the town was with her. When the Lord saw her, his heart went out to her and said, "Don't cry." They went up to her and touched the bier they were carrying him on, and the bearers stood still. He said, "Young man, I say to you, get up." The dead man sat up and began to talk, and Jesus gave him back to his mother. They were all filled with awe and praised God. "A great prophet has appeared among us," they said. "God has come to help his people." This news about Jesus spread throughout Judea and the surrounding country. If you have the opportunity to look back in the Old Testament to the book of 1 Kings and 2 Kings, there are very similar accounts to this encounter of Jesus with a widow. They would be stories well known to the first audience of Luke's Gospel. Fred Craddock, in his commentary on Luke, says he even uses words similar to the Elijah event in 1 Kings 17. There are a number of things that stand out. It seems to me, firstly, and in so very many occasions in the Gospel, the compassion of Jesus stands out with clarity. He is visibly distressed in the same way that when he finds out that Lazarus has died, he's pained, he weeps. Here he's visibly distressed. I don't know quite what that might look like, but I know it's very powerful. We're told quite clearly in verse 13, when the Lord saw her, his heart went out to her. So it's obvious something was there. The young man responds to the call of Christ. I think that's something that's real in the passage. You see, Jesus went up, touched the bier that they're carrying him on, and the bearer stood still. He said, "Young man, I say to you, get up." The dead man sat up and began to talk. What an amazing response to the call of Christ. It becomes a witness in you, in a way, as to what Jesus is about. For Jesus is always bringing new life to people. Sometimes people reflect upon those passages in the Gospels where we see somebody brought to life again. We have the widow of Nain's son, we have Lazarus, and in these occasions we have somebody who has died brought back to life. But it's not the same as the resurrection of Jesus. For when he died, he was raised to life by the Father, never to die again. There's no doubt at all that Lazarus and this young man here would die, but they're brought to life in a special way as a witness to who and what Jesus is. Now, I think that this would be the kind of thing that would spread like wildfire. As I was talking with James earlier on about humour, it spreads very quickly in a room of people. Well, news like this would spread, and it wouldn't need to be restricted to one room. It would spread all across the area. For we read quite clearly in verse 17, "This news about Jesus spread through Judea and the surrounding country." There was something powerful happening. Have you heard about Jesus? Do you know, Jesus raised somebody from the dead. And a widow, especially a widow in that particular context, would be somebody who would have great need. The loss of her only son would certainly bring her not only great grief, but poverty and all the things attached to that. But Jesus' heart goes out, and he reaches out to everyone who has needs. That was true then, that is true now. And the news about it will spread. It will spread from person to person, from context to context. Of course, it will be very unlikely to be this kind of context that we see somebody touched by Jesus. It will be a very different context, but they will all be deep places of need. And there will always be that going out from Jesus to the person in need and the authoritative voice. I love that thought in this passage here where Jesus says, "Get up, young man." And he gets up. I mean, it's a response, isn't it, to the word of salvation, the word of healing, the word of hope, the word of life. There's something very powerful about words. We've talked about that in 2 occasions. With Sarah, we talked about words that are sung. With James, we've talked about words that bring a smile to people's lives. Well, the words of Jesus brought life and light and healing into people's situation and changed things fundamentally, turned the world upside down, turned their word upside down. Jesus raises a widow's son and brings about great hope, great purpose and meaning into all our lives.